where to begin with this film. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can begin with this film. Um, yeah. Wow. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a film review. We are reviewing the 1960s science fiction classic 2001, A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick, and the screenplay by Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. And this is a film of, it's kind of like three stories. The film begins with like the dawn of man, so it's like a prehistoric, and then we cut to one of the first of two space missions. We go to the moon on one, and in the second one's to Jupiter. So, and it all revolves around this mysterious monolith, which is like a huge stone block. And when we start off the film, and we are with our primates, and they are still very ape-like at this stage, and we see them sort of scavenging and becoming victims to wildlife like saber-toothed tigers and things like this going on. And we see some wonderful landscape shots of the planet, and we see scatterings of remains of like prehistoric remains and of like mammoths and things like this and skulls. And we see this little group of priates, or the first humans, struggling to survive and living around this little pool of water and sort of like scavenging off roots or whatever it is that they can find in the planet. And we see one of them getting attacked by like this big cat, and we see another like tribe of apes turn up, and they sort of scare them off, and all this sort of thing goes on. Then there's a key moment when they wake up and they see this monolith in the middle of where they live, this big stone thing, and they're absolutely terrified of it and very curious at the same time. So they go and they investigate it and they touch it, and then they seem to kind of eventually sort of worship it. And when they touch it, it kind of teaches them things. It's trying to create something like a sort of scientific view of how the human race started. Because after they sort of touched this and sort of this mysterious object, one of the apes discovers and looks at all these bones and picks one up and then starts to bash things about. And this is where they are starting to now create, we can use this as a weapon, as defense from the animals, the creatures and stuff. And then they start, these poor little mammals, they start to kill them and eat them. And then when the other tribe turns up again to sort of scare this tribe off, they've now got weapons, and they attack one of the tribe and kill this other ape. So this is like the beginning of mankind, if you like, within, well, not very kind, but the beginning of how things sort of were. And they all believe it's from this old monolith, which is supposed to be a terrestrial sort of living sort of object, some sort of monolith. And then when we've seen all this, we then cut to space. And this is now in, obviously, 2001. And we are in space. Obviously, this film was made in the 60s. So they obviously thought by 2001, we'd be living on space stations and things. and we meet a group of doctors and scientists. And one doctor, he's off to the moon on a mission. So he's at this Hilton space station, obviously owned by the Hilton Hotel Group, in the middle of space, where he's travelled to there and meet up with other colleagues to go to the moon. Now, when they're on there, he meets a group of other scientists, including, very strangely, Leonard Rossiter's in the film. And he explains that there's been a problem on this part of the moon where they're going to go to, where there's been some sort of disease outbreak that they don't know. But this doctor knows something different. This is a setup that's been put in place so other scientists and other people do not sort of get involved with what's going on in this part of the moon, because they've discovered something. They've discovered some sort of terrestrial life form there. And lo and behold, when we travel to the moon, and when we travel to the moon and we're in space, we are treated to the most amazing music, the most sort of classical waltzes and then the classic theme tune from this, and we're treated to this amazing music. And when he reaches the moon, they have like a big meeting and they discuss about this thing that's been discovered, and they want to go to and have a look at it. So our doctor goes with the group, and lo and behold, there it is, our black monolith again. This time it's in the middle of the moon. It's like it's been placed there. And so they go towards this and sort of investigate it. And they got a photographer there with them. And while he's trying to take a photo, it lets off this horrendous screech. And they're all suffering this amazing sort of pain. And then we cut away from that. And we're on a completely different mission, the Jupiter mission. And this is where another element of the film takes place, because we've seen the evolution of apes to man. And then we see man with science and machinery and spaceships. And in this one, we see man with AI, because they've invented this computer called HAL 900, which is a computer like an AI computer. And he's like the sixth member of this Jupiter team. And then the film has an intermission. And then we come back to the film. And then the film becomes quite sinister. And we see, is this the destruction of mankind? Is this the robots or AI taking over mankind? The second part of the film, you're going to have to watch it and find out yourself, because I'm not going to spoil it anymore for you. And all I will say is that the ending is very trippy and leaves it open to loads of opinions and what has happened. It's amazing. It's absolutely an amazing film. It's such a cool film. It's an absolute classic sci-fi. I can't remember the year it came out. I'm sure it's like 1963 or even 65. I'm not sure. Someone will write it down below and correct me. People have great joy in that, instead of just enjoying the review of an old man who's just enjoyed an amazing classic science fiction stroke horror film, because it's got elements of horror in it, because it's quite sinister. And it's it's absolutely wonderful. And the music in this is like a whole character, and there's so much soundscape in this film. There's one part in the film when they go on spacewalks, and all you can hear is the astronaut breathing. It's all silent apart from this. Other parts of the film, it's all silent. Other part of the films, it's spoken. There's dialogue. Other parts of the film, is just music. It's just a wonderful journey. It does run for 2.5 hours. It's not a short film. It is an epic film. and it's open to interpretation, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to give you my interpretation of it because that's opening me to stupid comments down below, so I won't be doing that. All I'm going to say is that I really enjoyed the film. I think it's got so much interesting elements to the film, of almost touching on the creation of man to man's destruction by himself, by creating things, by creating a simple tool at the beginning of the film with a bone, to creating a robot that can sort of like, or AI computer that can sort of take over and destroy man himself. That's what I saw. And in between that, it's amazing science fiction space shots of planets, space stations on the moon, space ships, space stations in space. There's amazing space walks. It's incredible. It's an absolute feast for the eye. Now, I've just watched it in 4K, and the pluses of this edition, it has to be one of the best 4Ks I've seen. Yes, it does have some areas where there's a little bit of blur and a little bit of grain, but they have done such a good job in remastering this film. It looks stunning, absolutely amazing on 4K. It helped even more because I've just bought a brand new TV, and it looks absolutely stunning on that TV. I absolutely enjoyed it, and it's the first movie that I've watched on it. I will score this an essential watch and give it a 10 out of 10. It is definitely a 10 out of 10 film. It is not everyone's cup of tea, guys. It might take you a few watches. It might take you a watch and then going online on YouTube and watching a few explanations of people discussing what the ending meant and what the film stands for. There is some special features on there, some interviews and other sort of special features that are worth watching. There's a commentary on here. There's a Channel 4 documentary on here. And there's all sorts of wonderful on this thing. It's a 3-disc set. It comes on 4K, comes on Blu-ray, and comes with a Blu-ray of extra features. Really cool film. 2001: A Space Odyssey, 10 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below. It's a classic. You can see how many films must have been influenced from this film. You know, from Alien to Star Wars, from Silent Running to all these wonderful sci-fi films. And even films that are not sci-fi, you can see how they would have been influenced by this film. Obviously, Stanley Kubrick is an amazing director. He's made absolutely epic films. Some I love and some I don't like. This is one that I do like, and I do recommend it. Guys, thank you so much for coming into this video. I won't give a shout out to any horror channels as such as this one, because it's not really a horror film. There's horror elements to it. I would call it very quite light on the horror, but more in the horror comes in the sinister part and the second part of the film. It does say, what does it say on here? It says something violence, violent threat. Yeah, there's no sort of real fights in this, but there is some scenes that I find could be quite not suitable for younger viewers. And not only that, the story is quite complicated. And takes a lot of control, and it can take maybe a few viewings to get it. And as I said to you, halfway through the film, it comes up on the screen intermission. So it could even be worth watching over 2 nights if you don't have the time, or you want to absorb the first part before going into the second. It might be worth doing that. Massive shout out to my lad. Take care, guys.